Joining me now, great pleasure, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise of Louisiana. Mr. Scalise, you were very kind to come on the show. I don't know if you heard that riff or not, or heard the end of the riff, but my opening question to you, can you lasso John Kerry to a strong fence post and stop these crazy apocalyptical visions and policies of a 100% green country? Can you do it, Mr. Scalise?
Wow, Larry. Well, first of all, I could listen to your riffs all day long and enjoyed the last one. It's a treat as always. I will tell you, if you want to lower carbon emissions globally, just put John Kerry's private airplane, leave it on the tarmac, make him take his, sailboat using wind energy instead of his. He has no solar panels on the wings of his private jet. He'll tell you he's very important. That's why he needs to fly around in a private jet, telling you to drive in an electric vehicle where the battery's made in China, where they're literally destroying the fossil fuel industry in America while begging foreign countries that don't have our standards to make the energy we use, which means we have increased global emissions. Make more things in America, you'll lower global emissions. You could lower emissions by 50%. Just by making more things in America and grounding the John Kerry Express airline, and that would save a lot of problems in this country and lower costs for families in America.
I mean, I think it's very important, on this whole subject, to shine some light on the Kerry operation, because he's a cabinet member. He's got 45 people on his staff, according to the Unleashed Prosperity Hotline. But he's not accountable to anybody. He was never confirmed by the Senate. And basically, I don't know who he reports to or what he's been reporting. And the other side of it, Mr. Scalise, the White House did an honest white paper, CEA and OMB. We talked about it on the show last week with distinguished physicist Steve Koonin, an honest white paper that basically says, you know what, a couple degrees Fahrenheit of warming has virtually no impact on the economy, virtually nothing. 0.5% over the past 125 years. Not yearly, just over the whole period. I mean, it's white noise. And here we are with these apocalyptic visions and policies.
Yeah, and Larry, the bigger scientific issue would be if you look at what they're doing by destroying American energy, and nobody has talked about the devastation of the Biden anti-American energy policy more than you, but by shutting down American energy, making us more reliant on countries like Russia, Venezuela, Iran. They don't have the standards we have, so they emit more carbon. If you want to lower carbon emissions, make more oil and natural gas in America. No scientist has disputed that, by the way, because they just won't talk about it because they love beating up on America. But when you point out the facts, and the facts are that nobody has higher standards than America, why would you be begging foreign countries? Why would Joe Biden get on Air Force One, which he did, and fly to Saudi Arabia and beg them to produce more oil? Why is John Kerry flying all around? He'll go to Davos, Switzerland tomorrow on the drop of a hat to drink wine and cheese and talk about how bad America is. If we just said John Kerry's carbon footprint can be no higher than the average American's, he wouldn't be able to fly on his private jet all around the world after about month one. But they don't want to live by the same standards you and I live. They want to be exempted from the lunacy and the craziness of the policies that they apply to hardworking families who are getting devastated. You're paying 50% more at the pump because of Joe Biden and John Kerry's policies. You're paying 30% more probably or more for your air conditioning bill in this summer. And by the way, we had hot summers 150 years ago when we didn't have the combustion engine. They don't want to talk honesty about science. They just want to control your life. It's about government control, raising taxes, and devastating hardworking families. And they're succeeding at that, but those are bad things for America.
All right, Mr. Leader, let's skip to a second point, maybe related to the first point or not. We've had some very low inflation reports. President Biden is out on the campaign trail crowing about the success of his policies. So I just want to ask you, is inflation dead, Steve Scalise?
No, inflation is still a major problem that's hurting lower-income families especially hard. But so are interest rates. Look at how high interest rates still are. Look at the cost of food at grocery stores. All of those things are still taking money out of the pockets of families. Again, look at when you go in to fill up your car. I mean, they talk about electric vehicles all the time. Still about 90% of Americans use gasoline-powered cars, and they're paying about 50% more for gasoline at the pump than the day Joe Biden took office. And that's real money out of the pockets of lower-income families. And it's unnecessary. It's stuff that shouldn't be happening. Biden does it. He doesn't care about the damage it's causing to those low-income families, but they sure don't like it. They don't like what this Bidenomics, whatever he wants to call it, is doing. It's crushing middle-class families, and they're fed up with it.
We're going to put up a chart on the full screen. I don't know if you can see it or not. You might be able to see it. It talks about some of the inflation problems you just mentioned. Over the past 30 months or so, the CPI, the level of the CPI, has gone up nearly 16%. But, Steve Scalise, as you mentioned, grocery prices up 19%, electricity up 31%, gasoline up electricity up 21%, gasoline up 31%, and worker wages up 11.7. So in a way, the most important comparison, wages are up 11.7%, but the CPI is up 15.8%. So workers' take-home pay continues to decline. Yearly inflation may be calming down because of the Fed, but the workforce is still suffering.
Yeah, and by the numbers you just used, Bidenomics means a 4% net cut in the paychecks and the take-home pay of hardworking families in America. That's less money that they have to spend on things that they and their family care about. If they want to add on to their house, if they want to take a summer vacation, if they can afford the gasoline to get on the road, all of those things are harder for lower and middle income families to achieve under Joe Biden. And that's why people think the country's heading in the wrong track. In fact, that's why many Democrats don't want Joe Biden to be the presidential nominee, because the things that he's done are making it harder on the lives of those very families that he talked about when he says Scranton Joe. Those blue-collar workers in Scranton, Pennsylvania, are taking home less pay today. Their lives are harder. They're paying more because of Bidenomics.
All right, Mr. Leader, one more. I want to extend the segment. Producers are yelling at me, but I have a tin ear because I love it when you come on.
They know what you're saying is important.
And listen, everything you're saying is really important. And this whole story is life or death for the country. Let me play a clip from Jim Jordan's judiciary hearing yesterday. Let's play that sound if we can.
They didn't send those leads out because they were concerned about this information that Bank of America turned over to the FBI. But all this just underscores our main thrust of the hearing for Republicans, which is there is no way that we are going to reauthorize Section 702 of FISA in its current form. That's where they illegally queried this database and got information on Americans. Again, without a warrant, they went and did this in an illegal fashion 204,000 times, according to press reports in the New York Times.
All right. So, Mr. Scalise, I think Jim Jordan's on something here. You're going to change FISA so the FBI and other agencies won't have an excuse to take all this private information for Americans. The other point I wanted to ask you about, Christopher Wray, sort of bobbing and weaving, the FBI director yesterday, he really didn't answer anything. I mean, it was all, he wouldn't say which investigations they're looking at. He wouldn't talk about the Burisma bribery issues. He didn't want to talk about the influence peddling and the trail of money laundering for the family LLCs. In your judgment, as majority leader, where's this going to lead? It just seems to me every question is still unanswered.
Yeah, and Larry, the first thing is getting out the facts, and that's what's been happening, but ultimately holding people accountable, because I think the real core of all of this, and Jim Jordan, Jamie Comer, and I have talked about this a lot, people's confidence in these institutions has been undermined by the dirty cops. There's great cops, there's cops all around. The biggest enemy of a good cop is a dirty cop, because something like FISA, if somebody abuses the FISA law, it makes it harder for all of those cases where they're actually rooting out terrorism, because somebody somebody filed a false FISA report. And the judges, by the way, that have to sign those documents should want to put those people in jail that lied to them. Because if you falsify a FISA report, you're really lying to a judge at 3 in the morning when those reports come forward because supposedly you found a cell phone in a cave in Afghanistan. That's got to get rooted out. Those people need to be held accountable. We're getting more facts out. But does anybody think justice is being administered blindly? You know, the way they raided Donald Trump's house in Mar-a-Lago, even though it was under lock and key, versus President Biden, who was vice president at the time he got all of his classified documents that were sitting in a garage not under lock and key, and people like Hunter Biden and his foreign friends had access to that, is the same application of justice being administered there. Everybody knows that's not the case. And if justice is going to have the credibility it needs, it's got to be blind. And so getting these facts out there and bringing in people like Ray, whether he answers the question or not, the public is seeing all of this, and the public's asking these same questions, and they deserve to be held to a higher standard. And I think everybody ought to at least have the confidence that justice is being blind, and it's not happening right now, and so we've got to get these facts out.
Yeah, I mean, with Jamie Comer and so forth and Jim Jordan, I mean, at least we need a proper, intensive investigation of these charges, of these allegations.
Yeah,
I mean,
and they're not slowing down. There's more to come, Larry.
All right. Majority Leader Steve Scalise, as always, wonderful to visit with you, sir. Thank you very much.
Great to be with you.